Hey everybody, welcome to another Cook Along Live. Let me get that music off real quick. We will get started. There we go. Hello, welcome to another Cook Along Live. We're out in my backyard today. We're doing a little bit of grilling for Memorial Day, and hopefully you all are having a great day. I'm having a pretty good one myself, can't complain. Today we're doing a little bit of a grilled chicken and also kind of like a ratatouille style, I guess. It's not really ratatouille, but it's like a ratatouille style kebab. So a lot of fun today on our cook along. I've got my charcoal warming up and getting cooking. And hopefully you guys can get that set up as well. While we're talking about what we're doing today on our cook along, let's go ahead and switch to this. We'll do that. So while we're talking about what's going on in today's cook-along, I do want to also give you guys a couple of good grilling tips. So I'm sure that a lot of you already know what I'm going to be talking about, but things like direct versus indirect heat, using meat probes or thermometers to gauge the temperature of your meat or whatever it is that you're cooking, etc. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I guess while we're kind of waiting on this to heat up, we can go ahead and get started. Let's switch back to here. Actually, let's do this one. Let's go ahead and get our chicken going. I don't know why we're getting that weird wobbly. I thought I fixed that last time, but apparently we didn't. And also, I don't have any knives. So let me run inside real quick, grab my knives. It's been a while since I've done a cook-along, so of course I'm going to make a few mistakes. Grab my knife block. While I'm in here, I will grab my meat probe as well. Last couple of things that I forgot to grab. There we go. This should do it. Guess we can also talk a little bit about the future of Cook Along Live while we're here. as the pandemic kind of peters off and things start to open back up, I am going to increasingly not necessarily be here on Sundays in order to host the Cook Along live show. So what I'm actually going to end up doing is starting a new channel that is for cooking specifically, which will also host the Cook Along live stream. However, it's not going to be on a weekly cadence anymore. It's probably going to be more like once, maybe twice a month, depending on the month. But we're definitely going to keep this going. And I'm also going to keep making posts that are just kind of general cooking posts, more like produced features on how to do certain things, as opposed to doing a full live stream every week. This takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and considering we're able to actually kind of go out and do things again, I'm not going to have the time to spend on this like we did during the pandemic. So Cook Along Live is not going away, but it is going to shift to a little bit of a different thing. And don't worry, all of the information will be on my Instagram, so feel free to go and follow me there. You'll get all of the intel that you need as things kind of shift over. This channel is going to go back to being more of an aviation-related channel, so flight sim, tutorials, aviation vlogs, things like that. And the other channel will be focused on cooking. So here's our chicken. This guy is, I believe, 5 pounds, 4.9 or something pounds. I'm going to go ahead and get him out of his bag here and try not to get all of the juices all over the place. Let's see, this guy is 4.81 pounds. Get that out of the way. We got a pretty nice looking chicken here. We're going to get this guy all prepared before we get him on the grill. And what I want to do, hey, Strong, how's it going, man? Or girl? We're going to try and dry this guy off as much as we can. Shouldn't take more than 1 or 2 paper towels. Going to get as much of these guys dried off as possible. You're also going to notice that I'm going to be prepping my vegetables on the same cutting board as my chicken. We're going to be cooking everything that we're making today, so that's not really an issue. If you were going to be making vegetables separate from your chicken, maybe like in a salad or something, you would want to make sure that you used either a different cutting board or had the time to clean off your primary cutting board before starting on your veggies. But today, everything is getting grilled, everything is going to get cooked to temp, so it's not going to be an issue. Now, the reason that we're drying off our chicken so much, the reason we really want to get a nice dry exterior on this bad boy, is because all of that moisture has to evaporate before the meat starts cooking anyway. So we're getting kind of a head start by getting all of that extra moisture off. I'm doing pretty good. And why do we have barbecues? Well, over here in the United States, I assume that you're not in the country. I think you're probably international, which is great. Welcome to the stream. This also kind of signifies the start of our summer. So it's just a great excuse to get out with some friends, take the day off, since Memorial Day is usually like a holiday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's no significance to it other than just kind of getting the barbecue season started. Over here, we really like to grill, or at least I do. I don't know about other people, but those of us who do like to grill, this kind of is the beginning of grilling season, if you will. So that's pretty much all there is to it. All right, so there's a couple of different ways that we can deal with this chicken. We can do like a beer can chicken, put it on a nice can of beer, let it kind of roast that way. We can also just cook it whole if we want. I actually, for this kind of a barbecue, and I just got some new charcoal today, so that boy is sparking quite a bit. I don't know if you guys can see it in the camera here, but got a lot of little sparks going, so I'm just kind of keeping an eye on those. First time that I've gotten charcoal that really kind of goes to town like that. Usually it's a lot more subtle and mellow. But hey, you know what? As long as it doesn't catch anything on fire, I think we're good to go. What I want to do with this chicken is actually cut it in half. You can spatchcock it too if you want, where you just kind of remove the backbone and then lay it flat. But I actually want to take this chicken and cut it into 2 halves. And I'll talk a little bit about why in just a second. But what I'm going to start with, taking some kitchen shears and really just kind of going up one side of the chicken's backbone. Let's see, it doesn't look like there's a little satchel with the little giblets in it or anything on this guy, so we'll just go ahead and remove the backbone. If you wanted to spatchcock this bad boy, this is all you have to do. Remove the backbone, you can lay it flat, and you can toss them on the grill. The reason that I want to actually cut them in half is it allows me to actually do two different things with one chicken. If I have a bunch of people coming over and some of them want barbecue chicken, I can put barbecue sauce on one half. If the other half people just want like a nice herb rub, you can do that. It also gives you a little bit more flexibility when cooking it as to, you know, if one side is getting a little bit overcooked, you can move it to a cool side on your grill. If one side is needs a little bit of extra heat, you can put it more over the coals. We'll just remove any of these extra little globules of fat. You can discard them or you can save them for later if you want to make a stock or something like that. Now the next step, I'm going to go ahead and, again, just kind of use my shears. You can use shears or you can use a knife, really up to you. Let's start with the knife. Maybe we'll use the shears to kind of finish things up. I'm going to go just to one side of the breastbone. If you feel in here, you'll be able to feel exactly where the breastbone is. I just want to go to one side of it and cut straight down. Be careful of your fingers in here. We're going to cut right up along and forward, and you should end up with essentially two halves of the chicken. This side still has the breastbone kind of attached. If you want to look at the wishbone, it's actually this piece right here. You can leave those all attached, or you can cut along the other side and remove it. Totally up to you. I'm actually going to leave it attached just because it's a little bit easier, a little bit simpler. I'm just going to move this guy over to one side, like so. We're going to flatten this guy on the other side, like so. Let's go ahead and take a look at our grill. We can see that our coals are starting to kind of gray over. We can see some of the flames coming up on the top. It's very, very hot over the fire, as you would expect. I'm going to go ahead and tilt these guys into the charcoal bin. Let me just get some, off my hands a bit. Use some hand sanitizer. Hey, Kim, how's it going? Thank you. I'm in California, Strong. Yeah, I saw it. Sometimes I get busy cooking and it takes a little bit to kind of look up and see what's going on in the chat. But yeah, I'm out in California, west coast of the USA. So what I'm going to do with all of these coals is I'm going to pour them out into the charcoal kind of basin down here. I'm going to try and keep them on one half of the grill. Just like so. Let me get this out of the way. So we've got our coals on one half of the grill, and this is what's going to kind of give us two different zones for cooking in our barbecue. If you're not using charcoal, if you're just using regular, like a gas grill or natural gas or something like that, propane, you can do the same exact thing just by turning on half your grill and leaving the other half off. Now, the benefits of doing two-zone cooking is you have one very, very hot side so that you can sear, and then you've got one side that's still going to have plenty of heat, especially coming from a pile of coal like this, but it's not going to be over direct heat, so you can actually roast something without burning it. A lot of times when you put anything, any kind of food, right over hot coals, the coals tend to kind of flare up. Same thing if you're working on a gas grill and you put them right over a roaring fire, like the hot side, you'll tend to get hot flares, and that can actually lead to burning your food, getting it a little crisper than you may want. I'm going to go ahead and put my grates in. It really pays to have a good pair of kind of... They're on to me. Fire department's here. Just kidding. All right, so I like to get my grates in get them starting to kind of heat up so I can kind of clean them off. We're going to go ahead and close the lid and let this come up to temperature. So like I was saying, keeping kind of one side indirect and one side direct, you get the benefits of being able to sear whatever it is that you're cooking, and at the same time, you can put something that you don't necessarily want to sear on the colder side of the grill so that it can actually cook, it can roast. It's very much like an oven, and you won't get any of that. You're not going to char it to death. You're going to actually get to cook it before you actually sear it. So it gives you a little bit more control over what you're doing and what's going on in the grill. And this camera's kind of delayed, so this is interesting. I'll have to figure that out later. In any case, we've got our chicken kind of prepped. We've got a couple of dirty knives and things over here. We'll get those cleaned in just a second. We're going to go ahead and get our chicken seasoned. So the first thing that you might think to do is like salt and pepper. That's pretty standard, pretty easy to do. I'm actually going to take that up a notch. I'm actually going to use a little bit of garlic salt. What this is going to do is add a little bit of a garlic flavor. Since we've kind of cut our chicken in half, we're not going to be able to stuff it with garlic, cloves, or anything like that. So this will kind of help with that. And there's salt in here, so it'll also season the chicken. I like to use dried thyme as well, a little bit of onion powder, and some chili powder. You can also use smoked paprika if you want. Chili powder gives it a little bit of heat, not too much. Remember, this is not cayenne, it's actually chili powder, which is a blend of different chili powders. Gives it a nice flavor, nice little bit of heat, but the smoked paprika or regular paprika will be a little bit sweeter, if you will. And then I'm also going to use some fresh cracked black pepper. So before we get started with all of this, what I'm actually going to do, our chicken is nice and dry on the outside. We already patted it down with a towel. I'm going to give it just a little bit of olive oil, just a drizzle. You don't really need very much. Now we're just going to rub this kind of into the skin. And you'll notice I'm trying to touch the chicken only with my left hand and leaving my right hand kind of clean. That way if I need to grab anything, I don't have to worry about if I have any kind of chicken on my hand. Give this just a nice little pat down. What this is going to do is help the herbs that we have, all the spices and things, kind of stick to the outside of the chicken rather than bounce off when we start seasoning it. Now, a lot of people think that Memorial Day is a day to thank the people who have served in our country. However, actually a day of remembrance. So it's to celebrate those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy in not only our country, but around the world. And so a lot of people, they'll say Happy Memorial Day. They'll say, have a great weekend, great long weekend. And while you can do that, absolutely, it does have a little bit more gravity to it as far as what it's really about. And I always try and take a moment and remember those who were not as fortunate as us to, kind of be alive anymore. We're going to start with our garlic salt here. I'm just going to give it a nice, somewhat generous dusting. Remember, this is both the garlic flavor that you're adding and the salt. So season it like you would if you were just regular, using regular salt. And then what I'm also going to do is make sure I get the back of the wing. A lot of people forget that you're only getting the inside. You have to turn it around on both sides. I'm actually going to flip it over as well and season the inside of it. And that'll also help you get the back of the leg, the back of the drumstick. There we go. I'll do the same with this other one. And then this one I'll get the back of the drumstick first, and then I'll open it up to get the inside. And just make sure you get a nice even dusting on your chicken. Back of that, back of the leg. the inside of the breast. And there we go. I'm going to move on to the onion powder. You'll notice I'm not going to flip it back around. I'm just going to start on the side that I'm on. Another strategy you can use if you don't want to flip it over multiple times, you can actually mix all of these into a dispenser of some sort and then just sprinkle it all on at once. That's all great, but I like to kind of play around with it and see what a little extra onion powder does one time and see what a little bit of extra chili powder does the next time, you know, and kind of play around with the ratio. And then kind of remember what I liked each time I go in and just try and recreate it. I think it's a little fun. You should have fun when you're cooking, absolutely. Now again, like I can put chili powder on one half if I want, and then leave the other half completely chili free, or make one a little bit darker and one a little bit lighter. Part of the reason I like to do the kind of half chicken instead of doing a full roast. A little bit harder to get that defined line in the center. I'm just going to do a light dusting on this other one. Put a little bit of that flavor and none of the heat. There we go. Almost done. We're going to add some of our thyme. Another thing to mention here while we're talking about chicken or any kind of meat or any kind of grilling or any kind of cooking, really, if you're using meat, if you're cooking with any kind of a protein, it's a good idea to bring it out of the fridge or bring it out of the freezer, wherever you're pulling it from, at least an hour before you cook. And if it's coming from a freezer, you know, quite a few hours before, so they can have enough time to thaw and come to room temperature. If you're pulling it out of the fridge, allowing it to come up to room temperature lets it kind of equalize, and it doesn't take as long when you're actually cooking it to actually cook it all the way through. If you pull it straight out of the fridge, number one, all of the exterior of whatever it is that you're cooking is the temperature of the fridge, which is usually like 37 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you have to get that up to a cooking temperature, and then that has to cook all the way through to the center. So it takes a lot longer if you just go from fridge temperature. If you go from kind of a room temperature, by pulling it out an hour or so ahead of time, everything will kind of come up to, you know, 60, 65 degrees. And then it doesn't take as long to get to the final cooking temperature. Plus, you don't have to heat the outside, and it's already kind of on the way to warming up, so it just has a little bit of a head start. And last but not least, we'll put our pepper on. Yep, and there goes my little screw for the top of my pepper mill. Those things always fall off. I've never owned a pepper mill that didn't have that little nub kind of fall off when you're screwing, or when you're grinding the pepper. A little bit here on the outside as well. I'm going to grab that little nubbin. And we'll go ahead and take a look at our grill. So we're at about 450-ish degrees Fahrenheit. Looks like 225 Celsius. Seems like a pretty good temperature for me. To me, I should say. I'm going to go ahead and pop open my grill. And I like to use my tongs to kind of lift these guys up. My grill's a little bit different. It actually lets you kind of position these on a lower or a higher level. I'm going to bring them up to the top level here so that I can clean them off. The high temperature kind of cooks everything, and then you can just kind of brush it clean. I've heard some rumors about using like these metal bristle brushes and how the metal bristles can come off and get stuck in the food or whatever. I'm not 100% sure that that's true. I would imagine that you would be able to see them. However, happy to look at some internet links if anybody has anything that kind of proves that that's actually a thing. There we go. So, grill is more or less ready to go. I'm actually going to move the one side down a level again and get it right next to the coals so that I can do some searing. And we're going to use a technique here called, basically, it's like a reverse sear. You put everything over here on kind of the cold side of the grill, and you let it cook to whatever temperature you want it to be at. Then once it gets to the temperature that you want it to be at, you can go ahead and sear it. So you're basically almost cooking it all the way and then getting a nice color on the outside. They call it reverse searing because most people will sear first and then let it sit over the coals or move it to the cold side to kind of finish cooking. What that can actually do is turn the nice kind of crispy outside. It can kind of make it soften a little bit because you're just continuing to add heat to something that's already kind of crispy, which kind of defeats the purpose. Let's switch back over to do this view over here. And what I'm going to do, I've actually got some wireless meat probes. Doesn't matter if they're wireless, doesn't matter if they're wired, whatever it is that you're using, I highly recommend using a probe when you're cooking with any kind of a meat. You can cook it to exactly what temperature you want it to be at, and it takes all of the guesswork out of it. Now with a chicken, the breasts on this guy are a lot larger than the thighs. So I have a pretty good idea that the thighs are going to cook. They're going to be cooked through as long as the breasts are cooked through. I'm going to pick one of these. This guy here has the larger breast muscle. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this and use the larger one, because if the larger one cooks through, the smaller one will be cooked through. I'm going to kind of find where the center of it is, and I'm going to look at it from this direction. I'm going to try and kind of right where that seam is, that should be about the center of the breast. And I'm also going to pick the thickest part, which is like right around this area, and I'm going to try and insert the probe so that the point of it is right about there, but on the inside of the breast. Does that make sense? I'm going to come in from right around here, right about halfway down the breast, so like right here, and I want the probe to actually finish up about right there. I'm going to go ahead and insert and slide it in, and call that pretty good. Now, the dark meat does need to be cooked a little bit longer than the light meat. The white meat tends to dry out if it gets overcooked. The dark meat has a little bit more of that kind of red enzyme that looks like blood that everybody hates. So we're going to try and cook everything all about the same. But what I want is I want to make sure that the dark meat is cooked. So I'm going to put these on the grill with the thigh and drumstick facing the hot coals and let those kind of cook and let the breast cook at whatever rate it's going to cook at. You can fold the wing back behind the bird like this if you want, but I find that it doesn't really matter, so I just usually leave it like that. I'm going to go ahead and grab this bad boy. We'll put him down on the grill like that. Switch back over to the grill cam. So I'm going to basically be putting this guy on this half of the upper grill, and this guy on that half of the upper grill. So we're keeping it well away from the actual direct heat. These guys are going to cook nice and gently with the lid closed. And then once the thermometer comes up to temperature, it'll let me know, and then I'll start searing them down on the lower one. Go ahead and get that closed and let it start cooking. Switch back to over here. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little control station here that I'm going to start messing with to get it working right. And we'll pop out this little stand so that I can see what's going on with it. And then we'll move on with some of the other stuff that we're cooking today. Connect, connect, connect. And it's got a little phone app that works with it. It's all fancy, But I've got all kinds of meat thermometers that I use, and any meat thermometer is better than no meat thermometer. So whatever it is that you're using, go ahead and use it. Chicken usually is about 165. And where did my thermometer go? My app. Where you at, buddy? There we go. Go probe 1. Set up our cook. We're doing poultry, chicken. And say this is a whole bird. 165. Let's do, yeah, that's fine. I'm actually going to go to 160 because what I'm going to do when I'm searing it is I'm actually going to end up raising the temperature. So instead of 160, let's do 155 because it'll probably go up about 10 degrees. Start cook. Sound output is muted. Let me turn on the sound of my phone. If you guys hear any weird noises, it's my phone. I'm sorry. So we can actually see, I don't know if you guys can see it on this camera up here, but the internal temperature of the chicken is 53 degrees instead of 37 degrees. 37 is what it would be, this is all Fahrenheit, by the way. 37 is what it would be if I had pulled it directly out of the fridge. So I'm already 20-ish degrees ahead of the cook. I don't have to wait that extra 20 degrees. So as it cooks up and gets closer to 155, you know, it's already most of the way, well, I shouldn't say most of the way, it's already a good portion of the way there. So internal's 53, it's going up to 155. The ambient temperature in the grill, this is saying it's about 300, so it's coming up to temp. And the gauge on it says about 400, but this is probably a little bit delayed. This is higher in the dome. So actually, that's another great barbecuing tip. The dials or the thermostats that are on your actual grill tend to heat up a lot quicker than if you're using any kind of a probe thermometer. And the reason for that is, as the heat kind of rises, it hits the top of the dome first. And so any kind of a meat thermometer that's set at that position in a grill is going to, of course, get that temperature first. These also tend to go a little bit out of, what do you call it? You have to basically reset them every so often to make sure that they're reading the right temperature. So just keep an eye on these. If this is like way out of whack from what your temperature thermometer actually says the grill is at, you may have to adjust it. Calibration, that's what I'm looking for. They go out of calibration, so every so often you do have to kind of calibrate them. And quick way to do it, if the thermometer goes down to 0, is just put it in a thing of freezing water, ice water, and what you should see is that the thermometer reads 0. If it's out of calibration at all, you can adjust it. The other side of things is a boiling water, a kettle or some kind of a pot that has boiling water in it. Same thing. The difference is with boiling water, you actually have to take altitude into consideration. So if you're a little bit higher up, the temperature that water boils at is actually a little bit different than if you're at sea level. So keep that in mind if you do any kind of calibration with a thermometer. All right. Now, while we're waiting on our chicken to kind of start cooking, I'm going to give this a nice little wipe down. Again, I'm just going to do my veggies right here on this cutting board. We're going to be roasting all of this. So the fact that there's chicken on here is not going to make any difference. We're going to be cooking it anyway. And what I want to do is kind of a ratatouille style kebab. So Ratatouille, if you don't know, we've done it on this channel before. We've done a live stream for, we did Pixar, Disney style Ratatouille. It's basically a couple of zucchinis, red bell pepper, tomato sauce if you want to make the sauce. We're not doing a sauce with this one today. Green zucchini and spring squash, or the yellow summer squash. And it's a really, really fun kind of rustic dish. We're going to do that, and we're going to take it and make a kebab out of it. So the first thing I want to do is grab all of my ingredients. Oh, and eggplant. I forgot about the eggplant. I'm going to grab our green zucchini, grab our bell pepper. Got a summer squash here. And just like the protein, just like the chicken that we're making, or that I'm making, I took all of this out of the fridge about an hour before. So all of this has come up to room temperature. And again, it just kind of helps with cooking it a little bit faster. If you start with something that's really cold, It just takes a lot longer to heat it up to room temperature to begin with before it can actually start kind of cooking. And what I want to do is cut these up into little chunks. All the chunks I want to be about the same size. That aids with, cooking evenness and things like that. You have a couple of options here as well. You can choose to leave them round, like the actual vegetable is. So in this case, we've got like a couple of round zucchinis. We've got a round eggplant. We've got a bell pepper, which isn't really going to be round, but we can try and get a similar size of our slices with this. Or you can cut these guys in half and do like half moon style kebabs. Totally up to you how you want to do that. Let's go ahead and wipe off our knife. And what I'm going to start with is the red bell pepper. I'm actually going to cut straight down, like so, just down one side of the bell pepper. And then I'm going to turn it on its side like so, slide my knife right back into the cut, kind of turn my knife sideways, and cut straight down, and then start kind of rolling the pepper out. This is a great way to remove the seeds while maintaining all of that pepper flesh with maybe a couple of little pieces that fell off. Now, these pieces here, they're a little bit too small for a kebab, so we're not going to use them. But what we can do from here is just cut these into nice little chunks. We've got all of the sides of our bell pepper ready to be kind of diced down. This one's split a little bit, so I'm going to set it aside. If I need any chunks from that, I'll go ahead and use them. But I'm going to start with these guys here. Any of the extra kind of white pith, I'm just going to kind of cut around and remove. What I'm really going for is the nice sweet red bell pepper. There we are. Do the same with this bad boy over here. And again, we're cutting all of this on a cutting board where the chicken was done, but we're going to be cooking all of this, so it won't make any difference once it's cooked. Get rid of some of that. And what I'm going to do is just cut these into thirds. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 6. And here's 9. And I guess I'll cut this. Go ahead and slice that out. I'll slice that out as well. I'll just cut this into thirds. There we go. So 12. I'm going to go with my summer squash. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take... I think what I'm going to do is cut off the stem side and also the flower side. And I'm going to cut this in half, like so. Now what I'm going to do is just kind of cut this into about 1-inch pieces. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 pieces. We'll do the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 14. So we got 12, we got 14. And then with our zucchini, since we cut that in half, I'm going to do the same thing with the zucchini. Just kind of top and tail it. Cut it in half. And we want about 1-inch slices here. So we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14. And last, but certainly not least, our eggplant. Now this is going to be a fun one because it's kind of a very odd shape. and size compared to all the rest of the veggies that we have. A little bit wider. It's a little bit more bulbous, if you will. But I think what I'm going to do with this guy, I'm going to kind of cut off the stem. Like so. Cut off the flower end, like so. And I think I'm going to cut it into quarters. So I'm going to go down like so. See, these are much bigger than these. But I think a quarter will be about the same size. So we'll just do that. And then we'll come down at a slight angle to kind of match the way that the eggplant is sitting. Yikes. Good catch. We'll get to that one later. And then we've got our kind of 4 quadrants of the eggplant. And we'll cut these into, same thing, about inch-sized pieces. 2, 4, 6, 8, 14. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Huh, my math was off. All right, I'm going to leave that other half of the eggplant over here. If we need extra pieces, we'll go back to that. So what I want to do now is kind of season all of these veggies. We've got the eggplant, we've got the summer squash, we've got the regular zucchini, the green zucchini, and we've got our nice red bell pepper. The easiest way that I've found is actually to use a Ziploc bag, like this bad boy right here. Just take all of these little pieces, toss them into the Ziploc bag. Like so. And we're going to add some seasoning. Again, salt, pepper. Usually I don't pepper these, actually. What I'll do is I'll do salt and then some of the same seasonings that we used for our chicken. So we're actually going to do some garlic salt. I'm not going to use any thyme. Do some garlic salt. About a tablespoon of garlic salt. A little bit of onion powder. About a teaspoon. And maybe just a touch of some chili powder. If you want, you can absolutely add some real garlic to this. Crush some garlic, toss it in there, and let it go. I would do that if I were marinating it. If I was just doing it like this, where I'm kind of doing it at the time, I'll just do the seasoning. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of mix it up in the bag like so. And what you can do is actually take a look, especially if you add some of that chili powder, and you can see how good of a coverage you're getting. And if you get a couple of pieces that are like more seasoned than others, you can just kind of keep mixing it up. And so it's actually kind of imperative that you keep a little bit of air in the bag so that you have room for things to move around. This is also a great way to season things like cauliflower if you're going to roast them in the oven. Now that I've got all of the seasoning kind of distributed, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil, which will help them to roast when they're in the barbecue. You don't need too much, maybe about a tablespoon. There we are. Same thing, we're going to kind of close it up and then just make sure that the olive oil gets distributed. Now the reason that we don't start with the olive oil is because when you have vegetables that then have olive oil on them, whatever the first vegetable that your spices hit is going to be the one that's got all the seasoning on it, and then all of the rest are going to be kind of less seasoned than those. And someone just drove by with a very, very small penis. We're going to add our olive oil second after we've kind of seasoned things. This will also help to distribute anything that's more stuck to anything else. And there we go. Set those aside for now. I need to go and get some skewers, so I will be right back. Let's see, our Chicken is at 81 degrees internal, so it's already come up from 53 to 81, which is about 30 degrees. So that would have been about the time that it would have taken it to come from fridge temp up to room temp. While I'm inside, hope you guys can still hear me talking. I'm actually going to also give my hands a good wash. Since we've been doing a little bit of chicken foo out there. It's a really warm day out today. I think it's actually about 95 Fahrenheit. I believe that's about 24 Celsius. I'm probably wrong, so feel free to fact check me on that. I'm also going to grab a glass of water. Hey, doggo. Doggo says hi. He's telling me it's much nicer in here where the air conditioning is. And I tend to agree with him. All right. Glass of water in hand. Skewers in other hand. Doggo still inside. And here we go. So, got our skewers. Optionally, go ahead and soak these in water for about 20 minutes to an hour before you get started. It'll help the edges from burning. I did not do that today, so we're just going to see what happens. And what we're going to do with our veggies is we're just going to kind of lay them out on our cutting board over on one side. And we're going to start building our kabobs on the other side. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be doing here is I've also got some portobello mushrooms. For those of you who are vegetarians, maybe don't want to eat the chicken, or want something a little bit more steak-like, or, you know, whatever, portobello mushrooms are a great option. You can actually get them where it's just the cap, like so, or you can get the whole mushroom, either way. Yikes. Okay. What I like to do with the portobellos, I'm actually going to get them seasoned in the same bag that we just used for our veggies. I'm going to let them kind of marinate in there while we get the veggies going. I like to pop out the stem. It just kind of makes it a little bit more flat. And then if there's any kind of like this frill on the bottom, I also like to take that off. Up to you. If you don't, there's nothing wrong with it. For me, I just like to get rid of it. Now, this already has a bunch of oil in it and a bunch of seasoning in it. I'll stop moving it around so you can kind of see. So I don't need to add very much. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my portobellos in there. May add a little bit more garlic salt just to make sure that they're getting a good amount of seasoning. And then we'll go ahead and close this up. Give them a good little roll around. Try and get their surfaces as coated in oil as I can. And again, a lot of that seasoning will also kind of stick to the outsides. And then I'm going to take these guys and just set them aside for now while I get the kabobs put together. Now, our grill over here is at about 460 Fahrenheit, and that's about 240 Celsius, which is great. Let's start with our skewers. So what I want to do is actually start with a red bell pepper. The reason I like to start with the bell pepper is it's kind of forming a little cap here, so it's almost like a bookend. Then I'll go with a green zucchini. And be careful when you're skewering that you don't skewer yourself. And I'll go with an eggplant. Like so. I'll go with a yellow zucchini. And I'll go with another eggplant. Push these guys down. I'll go with another green. And finally, we'll cap it off with another red bell pepper. So there's our Ratatouille Kabob. And you can alter how many of these things you have on here. Me personally, I don't like eggplant so much, so this one might not be for me. I might put one eggplant on the ones that I want, and then give the ones that got a couple of eggplants to somebody else. I'm just going to set that aside. Also going to put my knife over there. I'm going to take a drink of water because it's really warm out today. All right, number 2. We're going to go ahead and, again, red bell pepper. Then maybe on this one here, I'll do a yellow. And then I'll do a green. And then I'll do an eggplant. And I'll do another green. And you see how all of these are about the same size? That means that they're all going to cook at about the same rate. Especially if you grab ones that are very uniform. And we'll cap this off with another red bell pepper, like so. There we go. 2 skewers. It says my probe has disconnected, although it shows that it's fine. So we'll see if that comes back. And the last temperature on that was 99, so I'm going to guess, let's see, it took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes to get to 50 degrees up, so another 20, 25 minutes, it should be done, just in case the probe doesn't come back. Cool, so just keep an eye on that. All right. Red bell pepper. Again, always start with the red bell pepper. We'll do a green zucchini. We'll do an eggplant. Do a yellow. We'll do a green. Actually do it like this. Another yellow. You can really put these on in any order that you want. Have fun with it. There we go. Number 3. And my probe is back. Must have just been a service drop or something. All right. Red, green, yellow. We'll do our eggplant. No onions on this. Ratatouille doesn't have any onions. Do another green. We'll do another yellow. Another eggplant. And then, there we go. That's 4. Oops, drop that skewer. I'm basically just going to go until I'm done with the veggies that I've got. Now, people can actually grab the skewers and eat right from them, or if you want, you can take all of the veggies off of these skewers first and serve them on a plate or something like that. Totally up to you as the chef, as the cook, how you want to present them. And of course, the kind of composition of the skewers makes less of a difference if you're just going to pile them off onto a plate. And let's do another eggplant on this one. Because they're all just going to be, you know, hodgepodge on a plate versus actually being on a skewer for somebody to grab and eat. Do our red pepper here. This is the last red pepper we have, so if we have anything extra, we'll just have to go without the pepper. Yikes. Do that. We'll do another eggplant. There's that. Use a couple of these smaller bell peppers. For kind of the last skewer. See how much we can fit on this bad boy. Got just a couple of pieces left. We'll see if we can fit it all on. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. There we go. And the last red bell pepper. Cool. We got 7 skewers to go on the grill. Our chicken is at 114 degrees internal. So we got a little bit of time. Let's wait on that. And I'll wipe off any of this extra seasoning. Again, we're cooking everything on this cutting board, so the fact that we were doing our chicken here, we're going to put that all on the grill, won't be a problem because we're cooking off anything that could have been on the chicken that got onto the veggies. These guys another little toss. I'm going to take a look at them. I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. About a teaspoon. Give them a bit of a rub down. Now I'll lay them out on the cutting board. And we'll dust them with a little bit more garlic salt just to kind of make sure that they're well seasoned. Now, since we're cooking on the cold side of the grill, like the indirect heat side of the grill, I should say, it's not cold, it's still hot in there. My probe thermometer says that at the grill level, it's 433 Fahrenheit. But since they're not directly over the heat, I don't have to worry about them burning. I don't have to worry about them getting charred, like really, really overcooked. And you'll notice that I'm not opening up the lid. That is what actually allows all the heat out. So if you pop the lid open, all of that heat that's in there cooking the chicken is just going to evaporate, basically. It's going to come out into the regular air, and the grill is going to have to heat back up to whatever temperature you wanted it to be cooking at. So I'm going to leave that closed as long as I possibly can. The internal temperature of the chicken is 120 right now. We're looking for about 155, so we've got about 30 degrees to go. So what I'm going to do is, while we're waiting on that, I'm just going to start talking to you all about kind of what we talked about a little bit at the beginning of the cook-along, and that's kind of the future of Cook-Along Live. Like I said, since the pandemic is kind of going away, not 100%, but we don't have to wear masks. We can actually go outside and kind of travel around again. I'm starting to make some trips for work and things like that. I'm not going to be around every weekend to be able to host any of these Cook-Along Lives anymore. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop them. They're still going to be here, but what I'm going to do is actually start a second channel, and it's probably going to be called Rob Cooks or something like that, or Cook Along with Rob or something like that. And it's going to be a general cooking channel where I'm going to be filming a bunch of cooking videos that are just going to come out like regular videos would. And then every so often, probably around special events like 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc., I'll be planning cook-alongs so that we can cook along together and actually make things that people are going to want to join in on. I think it'll be a little bit of a better strategy to get more engagement on these shows, and while it will mean that these regular weekly shows are going to go away as far as the weekly schedule, I think it's going to be a little bit more entertaining and engaging when we have more people actually cooking along during these streams. So more information on that as we kind of get to it. I'm still trying to formulate exactly what I want that format to look like, but we'll see. I'm going to be shooting for about one cook-along a month, and we'll just take it from there. Our internal temperature is at 125. Again, I really don't want to open up the lid on this until I have to. What I'm also going to do, put a little bit more onion powder, onion salt, And by the way, there is a difference. So I'm not using onion powder. I am using onion salt. So a little bit extra here. Just to make sure everything is seasoned well. And once this gets to about 130 on the chicken, I'll probably pop it open. We got about 3 degrees. And I'll get the portobellos on there as well. Let's go ahead and switch to this camera. 128. Chicken smells amazing, by the way. Wish you guys were here. Be able to smell this roasting. Really good. 129. What are your all's plans for Memorial Day if you guys are in the States? 1:30. We'll go ahead and pop this open. And look at those chickens. They look really, really good. They're not done though. We still have to wait for that internal temperature to get to where we want it. But they're starting to look really good, really roasted. None of them, we don't have any charring. Maybe the tips here, just because it's 400 and something degrees in the oven or in the barbecue. But we can rest assured that the chicken is being cooked, but not charred. Go ahead and take our portobellos, put them up here with our chicken. And we'll get that lid closed again. We're going to give those just a couple of minutes. We're going to give them a sear on the lower part of the grill, and then we'll put them up on the upper part of the grill. So our temperature dropped to 350-ish degrees. It's very quickly coming back up, which is great. I'll take that all day. Internal is at 132 out of 155. Yeah, what are y'all thinking about doing for Memorial Day? Any plans? Anything fun going on? We're doing a barbecue here. We got some friends coming over. Doing some tri-tips. Gonna take those, probably do a Santa Maria rub. Also do some chicken wings, get those going. Do a little bit of a homemade, basically the homemade sauce that we made for our chicken wings last year when we did those. My app's estimating about 6 minutes left on the chicken to get to 155. Yeah, what are y'all doing? We've got some good beer, got some good drinks going as well. Planning on having a pretty relaxed afternoon tomorrow. And here in California, it's just gorgeous weather. Today, what is the temperature right now? Feels like it's about 95. Let's see. Yep, perfect. I got it exactly. It says it's 95 degrees. Let's switch back over to this camera. You can see that Fahrenheit 95. And I don't know what that is in Celsius, but I can do that. So it's 35 degrees Celsius right now. And my thermometer just told me it's got about 5 minutes for the cook to be done. So, perfect. That's actually really great timing because the mushrooms will have had a little bit of time to kind of get a little bit softer, cook through a little bit. We're going to take our chicken, we're going to get it all cooked, and we'll pull it out on a plate to rest, actually. I've got a couple of plates over here. So what I'm going to do is do that. Get a plate for our chicken. Got about 4 minutes. Then while we're waiting on our chicken, while it's resting, we'll get our veggies on here, and that should be perfect amount of time for everything to kind of cook through. So what do y'all think about the new cook-along schedule, the idea that I've got for kind of turning it into its own channel as opposed to hosting them here? This channel will go back to being more of an aviation style channel. I'll be doing DCS videos, flight vlogs, things like that. Pretty much what I used to do before the pandemic started. And we'll have a separate channel for the cooking stuff. So if you guys are really interested in the cooking, you guys can go and subscribe to me there as well. All of the information for this will be on my Instagram. I'm sure you've seen a little thing pop up here and again with the link, or at least the username for that. And if you haven't, it's at Syrix, P-S-Y-R-I-X-X. And follow me on Instagram. You'll find all the recipes and all of the, well, not the recipes, but the ingredients list for all of these cook-alongs there. And as I kind of build out the new channel, you'll see more information about that on the Instagram page as well. We're at about 142 of 155. About 3 minutes remaining. And I'm sure all of you all are going to be going out and doing more things as well as we kind of build into, or go back to kind of what was normal. So I think it's a good time to kind of slow these down and not have to do them once a week. But we'll still have plenty of produced content. It'll also allow me to do longer things like showing you guys how to smoke, where it might not be live, but it might be a 15-hour day or whatever. I think the longest smoke that I've done has been 7 or 8 hours, but you can have some pretty epic smoking days. But it'll allow me to do more things like that, a little bit more baking, things like bread, where I can edit something that takes, 5-6 hours down into a 10-15-minute video. And you guys will get the gist and be able to do it. And then also put together kind of skills videos, like how to chop, how to skin things, how to do things that we tend to go over frequently on these cook-alongs, but I'll have just small videos that are kind of bite-sized around those things that you can just really quickly watch instead of having to pick them up through the cook-along series. And then once a month, once every couple months, once for a holiday or something, we'll do an actual cook-along. I'll have it going for, like, we'll talk about it as it's coming up, and you guys will have plenty of time to prepare for it and get ready. I think it'll be a pretty good setup, all things considered. About 2 minutes left. Internals at 146. And as soon as it gets to 155, we're going to pop that thermometer out, give it a good sear right over the coals, and that'll definitely get it up to 165, which is where we want it to be. While we're waiting, I'm going to go and grab another refill on my water, because it is warm today. And I'm a cold weather person. I like it when it's in the 60s outside, so when it's 95, it's a bit warm for me. Hopefully, whatever part of the world y'all are in, it's a temperature that you enjoy. And I'll let Doggo out this time too, so you might see him running around in the background. Hi, chicken's not for you, buddy. 149 internal, it says remove from the heat. We're not going to do that quite yet. But what we can do, not that one. We'll switch over here and look at these guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one over here. Put it right over the coals. You might see some flare-ups because, of course, you've got chicken fat and things dripping down into hot coals, hot embers, and that's just going to cause flare-ups. This one over here, same thing. I'm going to probably try my best not to get the probe over any of the direct heat, but we'll get the chicken over the direct heat. I don't want to overheat the probe. And then, of course, we've got our mushrooms over here cooking away as well. Move those over there. And what I'll do is I'll start putting my kabobs over here. Like so. Go ahead and close that for now. We got 2 extra kabobs left for the moment. Gonna give this just a couple of minutes right over the coals. By closing the lid, a lot of times you'll actually prevent flare-ups. The flare-ups happen when there's too much oxygen coming into the coals. So the coals have a lot of air, and they're able to breathe really well. And then anything that falls down on them will cause some kind of a flare-up. When you kind of restrict the amount of air that they get by closing the lid, depending on your grill, how much airflow it has, etc., you can actually reduce a lot of those flare-ups. So, effective strategy if you are constantly plagued by things burning. And right now, having the chicken right over the coals, I'm not trying to cook it necessarily anymore. I'm just trying to get a good amount of color on the inside of the chicken. And what I'm going to do is do my best to flip it here. Like so. And look at that color. I'll do the same thing on this side. Getting a little bit of char, which is fine because we're not just totally overcooking it. We'll do the same thing on the outside, really kind of get a nice, good golden color on it. Then we'll take it off, set it on the plate to rest. And then we'll really start kind of working on our veggies over here. Get that closed again. Switch over to there. Part of what makes a good grill master is just having the patience to keep the lid closed. Also a good cook in the kitchen. A lot of times people like to peek in the oven. I know some of my family is guilty of that. And I do my best to try and persuade them otherwise, but they always just peek, and I'm like, no, you're letting all the heat out. Don't do that. But yeah, same thing with being a grill person. If you want to be a really good grill person, it's just about trusting that the grill will take care of it and not peeking constantly. And of course, now that we're at the end of the cook, we're not peeking necessarily. We're basically waiting for like 2 minutes at a time to flip, get a good sear, get a good amount of color on whatever it is that we're cooking. And there we go. Look at that. Now look at that. Very nice color, a little bit of char. That's a good grilled chicken right there. The thermometer's telling me the internal temperature is about 160, which is perfect because while we take it off and let it rest, it's going to come up to 165. So the chicken is done. Go ahead and pop you off onto a plate. Let's go ahead and switch there. Look at that gorgeous chicken. The same thing with this guy. And check out that color. Absolutely gorgeous. Nice and crispy outside. Everything looks beautiful. Switch back to our grill. I'm going to take my portobellos. They're nice and soft. I'm going to put them right over the coals. Cap side down. See if we can get a couple of grill marks on the outside. It's hard to do with mushrooms because they tend to get really, really wet on the outside. And so the grill marks don't really like to happen, but we'll see what we can do. Now I'm going to take my chickens, set them just over to the side. Still got my meat thermometer in there, my probe. I'm going to keep an eye on it, make sure that it gets to 165. And it should. It should residual heat should actually take it up to about 165. And it's a 161, so I have no doubt that it's all the way cooked. I'm going to let these guys kind of sit, maybe put a little bit of weight on them with my tongs. Give them about 5 minutes. Go ahead and slide these guys, make some room for the two that we weren't able to fit on here yet. And I'm just going to remember that they're the two right in the middle. And again, getting the sear marks on this is about having the patience to just kind of let them sit and sear. I can see that we're getting a little bit of fire. I don't know if y'all can see that. Probably not because all of the veggies are in the way, but there's a little bit of fire kind of coming up and licking the bottom of these grates. So let's take a look. Yep, no color on those. But that's fine. Mushrooms, it's really, really hard to get a good sear on them, unless they're bone dry. A little bit of color there. There we go. Go ahead and take these guys off before they overcook. Set them on a plate. That one fell on the chicken board, so I'm going to go ahead and cook it again. Just make sure we sear off anything that could have been on there. I'm going to start also moving my kebab skewers down to this lower grate. Right over the direct heat. These two are the ones that were, no, those two are the ones that were the new ones. All right, you're good. We'll just do that. We'll get these guys, whoops, up here. And we'll just close that. Again, to kind of prevent flare-ups, keep a little bit less oxygen in the actual grill. Our chicken's internal temperature is at 165, so the chicken is cooked and done. And now we're just really waiting on these. Chicken's resting. And so far we've got our 2 mushroom caps up here. We've got a couple of little grill marks, but they're not really dark grill marks, which is fine. Again, it's really hard to get that on a mushroom. Now, I'm not so concerned over here with the grill on what the temperature is, because it is, they're right over the heat. So the actual grill temperature, the temperature inside of the cavity doesn't matter so much to me. I more just want to make sure that they don't overcook on the side that's facing the heat. So I really just want like a couple of minutes on each side. Again, trying to get some grill marks if we can. But not trying to get too much charring going. There we are. Now what I'm going to do is actually take this plate, set it on the table. Now move the cutting board that's got all of the chicken on it out of the way. And I've got a clean cutting board over here so that I can carve our chicken. Get it ready for dinner. There we go. That veggie plate up there. Bring our chicken back. 167 internal temperature, so the chicken is definitely done. Put that there. Mm-hmm. Just the bit that I picked up on and tasted is good. But here's our chickens. Nice and crispy. We'll get these guys carved up in just a second. Got our kebabs. Give them another turn. Getting a few grill marks. There we go. Just keep an eye on this last little red bell pepper. Don't want him to fall off into the coals. That would be sad. These guys up here. Give them a good flip. We'll go ahead and start carving these guys. 168. Super happy with that. That's plenty. I'm going to go ahead and what I like to do is kind of remove the wings first. And I'll just come over to the socket and just kind of cut a little bit inward, like a 45-degree angle. Just a little bit around. And then maybe grab the elbow and just kind of rotate it a bit. You should see, or at least feel, where the actual joint is, where the socket is. And we just want to get our knife into there and cut straight down. There we go. And then we can just kind of carve around where that wing is attached. And it should pop right out. There's one chicken wing. Next thing I like to do is actually take off the thigh and the drumstick. I'm going to come right to where this kind of flap of skin is. Cut down on the drumstick side or on the thigh side. Trying not to cut the meat in there, but keep it as close to the thigh as I can so that any of the extra meat stays on the breast. Then there's a little bit of a little flap down here that I kind of cut up. And again, you're going to find where the thigh joint is. I'm just going to kind of roll my knife right through that. Separate it. And then here you can see where the drumstick, you can see this like little fold in here, this little like elbow. If you basically hold the drumstick up at a 45-degree angle and cut straight down, you'll go right through where the joint is on the drumstick. And now you've got a thigh, drumstick, wing, and breast over here. This side of the breast did not have the rib cage inside, or the not the rib cage, but the breastbone, but it is still attached to the rib cage. So it's up to you. What I'll do is I'll find where kind of the inside of the rib cage is, the bottom of the breast, and I'll just cut kind of along that on the bottom to separate it from the breast as best I can. And then the same thing kind of up at the top here, carving up the wishbone. And there you go. Breast separated. There's one half of our chicken ready to eat. You're still going to have a little bit of extra meat attached to the ribs. These are the pieces that you can kind of sample as the chef. Nice and juicy. Perfectly cooked chicken. That's good. We've done half of a chicken. I'm going to jump back over here. Oh, you guys didn't even see any of that carving. Wow. Terrible camera work on my part. Sorry about that. You guys will get to see the second part. Go ahead and flip our kebabs. They are looking amazing. Come on, flip. Like so. And like so. Now we can kind of fit these guys down here as well, or at least the one of them. Yeah, I'll just leave the one. There we go. Now I'll remember to switch the camera. I'll show you guys how to carve the other half of the chicken. There's the one half that we did really well. Here's the other half. We're going to start with the wing. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the meat thermometer because we're pretty much done and rested. Set that over on the side. We'll clean it off later. So what I'll do is I'll take the wing. I'll kind of pull it back like this. Sometimes the elbow joint will actually separate because it's been cooked all the way through. What I'll do is I'll find where the wing is attached to the bird. I'll just kind of cut into the socket and try and find where that bone goes into. And then just kind of cut around where the joint is. Be gentle with it. And as long as you kind of cut around it, you should be able to kind of bend it out. Either it'll just pop out of the socket on its own, or you can carve into it and separate it from the socket. So there's the wing. The next step that I'll do is I'll take the thigh and the drumstick. I'll hold them up like this, and I'll cut the skin up along the drumstick, being careful not to cut into the meat of the thigh, but I'll separate that skin and kind of run the knife along the inner side of the thigh here until I get to where the socket is for the thigh, and then I can cut right through it. Now we've got our thigh and our drumstick. I'm going to move the breast over just a second. If you take your drumstick here and just literally take it and hold it up, and you have like a 45-degree angle here, see where this kind of elbow is, the elbow crease. If you cut straight down, you should cut right through the joint. And now you've got a drumstick ready to go, a wing ready to go. Your thigh is separated as well. This is the inner part of the other chicken, the breast part. This breast, we do have the breastbone still attached, and all of the rib cage, of course, as well. So what I might do on this one here is actually start on... Actually, I guess I'll do the same thing. I'll start on the rib cage side on this side. So here's like where the wing was. Here's where the rib cage is. I'm just going to kind of cut down and follow the edge of the bones up to separate the breast from the rib cage cavity. And what you should be able to do is just pull it away in one piece, like so. And look at that. Got a breast, got a little bit of maybe some stuff that we want to trim away. So just trim it away. Be careful with the knife, of course. So you can come in here, cut that. Got a little bit of a tendon there. And there we go. We got a one full chicken, totally taken apart, barbecued for a grilling day. And then, of course, all of the bits here on the rest of the carcass, you get to taste and enjoy as the cook to see how it came out. And again, both sides are juicy and delicious. Set that over there. Real quick, we'll jump back over to our grill. Take a look at our kabobs. These guys look pretty good. Good color on all the veggies. They're not overdone, they're not overcharred. Make sure that we don't lose any in the coals. Everything looks delicious. Now these two here, last pieces, we'll kind of put right over the coals as well. Let them get a little bit of color on them. And what I'm going to do clean off my hand just a bit and get these guys onto a plate. Now I think what I'm going to want to do is just kind of pop them all off of the skewers. So I'm just going to set them over here. Get this closed for those guys to kind of sear up. We'll switch back over to this camera. And I will do my best not to get this plate super gross. And then it's really as simple as taking your skewers, turning them this way, one finger, slide everything down. Same thing with the next one. Careful, because it's probably hot. You can also use a fork if you want. It'll help you kind of guide the veggies down off of the skewers. This is a great way to have a delicious outdoor barbecue. Really for any holiday. Doesn't matter if it's Memorial Day, doesn't matter if it's just the middle of summer and you want to have a barbecue on a weekend. I mean, look at these veggies. Look at how well they're grilled. Nice and soft, got a little bit of color on them. Look delicious. I'm sure they taste delicious, but they're hot as hell, so I'm not going to put one in my mouth quite yet. But how is this for a barbecue spread? Ugh. All right, everybody, that concludes this episode of Cook Along Live. Hopefully all you enjoyed and picked up a couple of tips. Give this a try if you guys are cooking for Memorial Day tomorrow. Grab some probes. If you're don't have any probes at the moment, you can find some instant read thermometers. Kind of try to gauge how long it's taking your food to cook. If you put a probe in and like at the beginning you realize that it's like 65, check it in a half hour without opening, like leave it closed for a half hour, open it, instant read, see how far it's come. If it's 30 degrees, cool. You got another half hour for another 30 degrees. Maybe check it 25 minutes instead of 30 minutes just to make sure. But that's the simplest way to make sure that your food is all the way cooked, especially when you're working with any kind of a protein. As far as the veggies, it's a great idea to get the veggies in there kind of pre-cooked. Let them kind of roast oven style in the grill. And then once you are done cooking them all the way, you can sear them. You'll get a really nice color on them. They'll look awesome. You won't overcook them, but they will be cooked all the way through. And that's a good zucchini. All right, everybody. Have a great Sunday afternoon. A wonderful Memorial Day tomorrow, if that's what you're celebrating. And I'll see you on the next Cook Along Live. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.